Can we have the presentation? It's coming. So while we wait for that, I'm Mitchel Hunter from South Africa. I'm part of SEDQ. There we go. And so the presentation, we'll do it with Shajar. I need lessons. Oh. Okay, so SEDQ was formed 2 years ago. We're a group of Jews from 13 countries. In the interest of time, I will skip. We have 4 main campaigns. The first one is anti-militarism, which is why we're here today. The next one is anti-racism, both racism from Jews to Palestinians, but also within the Jewish community between Ashkenazis, Mizrahi, Ethiopian, indigenous African Jews, etc. We have a campaign against the Jewish National Fund and its role in 48. And lastly, in liberating Judaism from Zionism. But I was told to go very quickly through this part so that we can get to the anti-militarism.
So as you know, since 2001 especially, but we have been experiencing a change in the way that securitization is being thought around the world. Now, the idea of war had changed a bit, and what we can see globally, it's the beginning of these low-intensity conflicts, as we call it. There are endless wars that they don't have a clear objective of what are their meanings or what are their goals. They are just wars that they continue to go in this low-intensity mode. These actually are mostly they're not wars between states. They are mostly between some states and non-state actors, and they usually target civil populations in order to control them. Also, these methods, this new kind of securitization is within a neoliberal perspective. It's a very commercial way to think the war, and for that, all the time, countries around the world are using newer technologies to develop this kind of securitization and population control. In that sense, Israel is one of the best examples of this kind of conflicts, this endless occupation, the endless war that is already for 50 years, made this the army, the Israeli army and the Israeli military industry to gather a lot of know-how and also like the capacity to develop new technologies that can sell around the world.
Okay, so we'll start on South Africa. I'm not going to cover ground that Terry covered earlier about apartheid, but this is the book that was mentioned. So anyone who wants to know more should really just start here. It's a great insight not only into South Africa, but into how 2 countries, even though they have variable diplomatic relations, still have a very constant military relationship. And you can buy it almost anywhere. Okay, so basically 20 years after apartheid, most of the promises of decrease of equality and justice haven't been met. And so there's been a large increase in the past couple of years of social movements and protests fighting for better service delivery, fighting for racial justice, fighting for an end to inequality. However, the South African government has been responding with repression rather than negotiation, and it's been doing this using techniques and weapons that it gets from Israel. So I'm just going to go into 3 examples for the interest of time. The first is water cannons. This is something that Palestinians and various groups of Israelis know very well, and they've had a long history in South Africa, and they used very extensively on social protests. This is a group who are protesting for better sanitation rights. This was a group for housing delivery, and this was a big student strike in the past 2 years for free education. And water cannons are used extensively, and these water cannons come from Beit Alpha Technologies, which is based in the kibbutz up north in Israel. All their website, this is an image taken from their website, and their website proudly states that all their military equipment are proven in combat, which is the same message we've been hearing throughout the day. Something new to South Africa is that all Beit Alpha vehicles, they can put pepper spray and tear gas into the water streams, which is something new to South Africa, which kind of shows how the ideology of kind of total constant war in the occupation is being exported to other countries. The next one is security. This mostly around securing the World Cup. Everyone in the international community was very happy that South Africa's kind of World Cup was safe and crime-free, but that was done by evicting informal traders, by clearing public spaces and declaring them like no-go zones, diverting public transport and foot traffic. And the main consultant for this was the ex-Netanya tourist police, chief of tourist police, and he kind of proudly stated that all the techniques, the weapons, and the strategies he used came from Israel. And this has had an ongoing effect. After his consulting job ended, after the World Cup ended, these same practices have been put in use in other events without his direct input. There's a few other security teams that we know are involved. Albert, which has been mentioned before, some others, and Verint, who makes devices that can capture data from messaging services, cell phone messaging, and that usually should be sold only to state entities, but they've been selling them to private entities in South Africa, which use them for business espionage and fraud. And it's been stated that they have been Israel companies, not only them, have been the biggest provider of surveillance technology in South Africa since the 70s. The last one are R5 rifles, and I'll ask if the short clip can be put on. So this is a short clip from a documentary called Miner Shot Down. It relates to the Marikana massacre, which happened in 2012, in which mine workers were striking for increased wages. So it was a labor dispute. And we'll see what happened. Look at the rifles that the police are holding. We'll speak about them now. Okay, that's all. Thank you. So those are R5 rifles. They've been declared in post the massacre, an investigation of inquiry was launched, and those rifles were defined as one of the main reasons that the death rate was so high. 34 people were killed on the spot. And those rifles, they shouldn't be used by police forces, basically. They have 2012. R5 rifles have a very high fire rate. They shoot 700 bullets per minute, up to half a kilometer. Some people have said up to 600 meters. So basically, if you miss, someone further down the line is going to get shot. And I think 2 people killed in Marikana were killed by stray bullets. And the point about these is that it's the Israeli Galil weapon produced by Israel Weapons Industries, or Israel Military Industries as it used to be called, and it's just the same exact design but produced in South Africa. So this is a combat weapon sold to a police force.
Okay, bringing a bit of Brazil. I brought here a picture of Shimon Peres because I was very happy that he was named here before. Usually he's remembered as a peace politician, but in Brazil he has an expressive role in bringing arms to our government. I had two pictures. I have to confess that this picture I found today, and it's very important because this businessman is now the mayor of São Paulo, and 2 weeks ago he started a huge massacre and like expulsion of an area of the city that it's an area where people use like heavy drugs. They are like poor people that don't have like access to education, to health, that don't have like a chance to find a work, and they are like deep in heavy drugs. And this mayor, he started a huge operation where they are cleaning the area. They like destroyed all their houses, all their encampments, and also they destroyed some social projects that were running already there in order to help these people to find like health assistance and social assistance. So it's not just expelled and these people also destroyed the projects that were running there. And this is also a picture of Shimon Peres with the former Minister of Defense Antonio Patriota in 2009 when in his last visit. And he visited Brazil 2 months after Brazil was announced to be the host of the World Cup in 2014. In that sense of what we were talking to, what I started to say, this new kind of securitizing the cities and urban spaces were entered in Brazil since this last decade, when you have several big mega events. You have the Paralympic Games, not Paralympic Games, so Pan American Games, the World Cup in 2014, and the Olympics in 2016. They are like the two major events. And these two were used to open the door to this new hall of technologies. That these technologies of securitization, they have like heavy impacts on the local populations. They create exclusive zones that just those who have like the entrances or those that pay to participate in these games can enter. To ensure the construction of the stadiums, they also make like forced displacement, like I don't know how to say that in English properly, but they like, yeah, of almost like whole favelas, like especially one that is called Vila Autódromo, and of course also like privatizing every time more the security. There is the ISDS, that is an Israeli company. We still don't know what was exact relation between the Olympic Games and this company, because the company announced that it will like manage all the security of the Olympic Games, and after pressure of the BDS movement of Brazil, they went back on it, but at the end it was in the official sponsors of the Olympic Games. What we know that they were involved in the installation of what is called a Center of Command and Control, like Center of Command and Control. Yeah, Center of Command and Control. That is like was like a building where they unified all the policing forces of Rio with cameras, drones. As you can see, a drone going out in the beach of Rio, and that. So Israeli expertise in Brazil, it's also very used. We have here two other examples. The drones for AEL, that is a Brazilian subsidiary of Elbit Systems. Actually, this company, it's another technique that Israeli companies use in order to hide their Israeli identity, let's say, because they knew that they can be targeted by social movements, and also to ensure that they will pay like less taxes and all of that. They create subsidiaries. So this company is actually a Brazilian company that produced this drone, but it's Elbit Systems. It's a company owned by Elbit Systems. It's the Elbit Systems technology, and it's used so its main role, like theoretically, is to protect the Amazon and to control the Amazon. But we know that also is not just guarding the borders, but just a bit. But not just guarding the borders, but also to control social movements that are asking for the lands and the native indigenous movements. This is it's called the Plasan Garder. It's from the company Plasan, Israeli. They arrived in Brazil in 2015. They are used by the military police of São Paulo. That the military police of São Paulo kills per year more people than all the police of all the states of United States together. So, and they are using now Israeli technology to protect their soldiers. This truck is like completely like nonsense related to what they do daily life. Another important role of Israeli companies are in the training. We have several several police forces and also military that use military Israeli training. For example, BOPI, that is the most famous police force maybe in Brazil, that is like the elite force of the military police of Rio de Janeiro. The BOPI have a tradition of not arresting nobody. They never arrest people, they just kill them. So these are policemen trained by Israeli military, like former militaries. And then also, especially in São Paulo, there's a very important role of the private security companies in the securitizing the city. I brought here some examples. For example, I don't have to say that this Agana company, it's a Brazilian company but use Israeli techniques, Israeli technology. They are like almost everywhere in the city. You can see them, and you have like also several companies. And yeah, I think that's all.